Hello everyone and welcome back to Football Trending. Today it's a three-man crew. It's myself, it's Ibi.
Morning.
And it's Joel, back from Copenhagen
Back
Fashion
from
Week.
Fashion Week, baby.
How was it?
Lovely place, but it's a summer city, isn't it? It's freezing.
You tell me, I've never been.
Haven't you?
No, I was supposed to go to speak to the Denmark manager pre-World Cup last World Cup.
Yeah.
And then I couldn't end up going, but I really wanted to go. Not so much for the interview. Interview seemed like fun, but city's right up there somewhere on my...
It's a good city. Yeah, it's really good. Good fun.
Huge weekend of FA Cup football this weekend. That was where most of the action was. It really lived up to the billing. It had upsets. It had, men shouting in little boys' faces. It had about everything. And Ibi went down to Chelsea versus Leicester, to speak to the fan base about the game.
Go on, Chelsea! Hey, listen, we're going to get to the FA Cup final. We're going to lose, but I said don't worry about the fucking Chelsea.
I think, yeah. Liverpool again.
Chelsea!
Go on, Chelsea!
Leicester played well. We unfortunately lost. Leicester, I'm a Leicester supporter.
Nice, man.
Unfortunately, we lost.
Interview here, bro.
Thank you. Yeah. Chelsea are fucking cunts.
Right, yeah. Wait till next season. When the board is spends another season in Leicester.
What an articulate bunch.
Oh, where do we start with them lot?
So look, we didn't really get many of our questions answered, but luckily the game was pretty good, so we didn't need them today. Ibi, how was that? Like, usually you go to a lot of games. What was the difference, do you think?
The people. I don't want to generalize. Once again, I'm not generalizing a whole fan base.
No.
But, fucking hell, give me a break. Me and Harry went down. Big up Harry, by the way, because that was tough. So we kind of as the match finished, Stamford Bridge is quite a tight area.
Yeah, really tight.
So it's just everyone's on top of each other when there's the away fans, is team buses or fan coaches literally next to the home pub. So it was a recipe for disaster. And honestly, people just didn't want to see us win. People just didn't want to see us win yesterday. It was intense. It was very intense.
It looked it, and it was intense on the pitch as well. So it was Chelsea go 2-0 up, Leicester drag it back, then there's the red card, then there's the two brilliant goals from the lads who come on. But I want to talk about one man in particular, one man who had quite a difficult game, didn't manage to get on the pitch, is Raheem Sterling. So he had a penalty that kind of put it straight down the middle, was definitely not his best penalty ever. And then there was a moment where he goes through on goal and he puts it wide. He then gets the free kick, and I think everyone has seen the free kick on social media yet, but there's a certain angle from behind it where it just flies off. It's not a great free kick. It goes absolutely. It almost goes into the upper tier, which is
absolute orbit,
which is saying something. But that does also drive in behind and get the assist for the second goal. What I want to talk about was there was a small section. I will say it is a small section. It's always a small section of fans that booed Sterling when he was taking off. And I think the general consensus around Chelsea fans at the moment is he shouldn't be starting. I want to speak to you guys about that because I think we spoke about it before, Joel. He's a good player, a very good player, who still is quite an inconsistent finisher, but that's kind of always been a part of his game.
He's not meant to have the finishing record of a centre forward, of a number 9. He's a winger. As you said, the work that he does for that second goal is absolutely fantastic. That is his trademark. That is what he's meant to be doing. Anyone can hit a bad penalty. There isn't an excuse for hitting a bad penalty, but anyone can do it. He looks totally void of confidence at the minute. He hasn't had his best season, and where it has been a very challenging season for Chelsea, there's been a lot of change. I don't know. I don't know. I think it's fair enough for fans to not want him starting, but Poch has been very, very clear about the decisions that he's taking, about him believing that they're for the good of the team and that it is going to take time to get it right. So I don't really see the benefit in ganging up on somebody like that, to be honest. Even if, he had a bit of a stinker for a lot of reasons yesterday.
Yeah.
everybody does.
Everyone does.
Everybody does.
Exactly. My thing is we kind of spoke about with Pogba last week.
Yeah,
It's like,
yeah.
You ganging up on players is kind of just gonna make the player go the other way,
100%.
and they'll kind of just neglect and just be like, all right, cool. They'll earn their 200 grand a week and kind of just keep it stepping. If you actually like use that chanting to kind of like back the player, support the player, the player will want to try more. The player will try his hardest. But yeah, I do feel sorry for Sterling. Like, bad performance is one thing.
Yeah.
Then your own fans turning on you is like a whole different ballgame.
Yeah, I'm not a believer in booing your own players at any point.
No.
To be honest, I think you're there to support your team.
Exactly.
When there's a player who like, if you think about players who feel loved and how well they play, and yet there's still this thing of like, well, he's doing it on purpose, or he's not trying hard enough. It's just a fallacy. It doesn't exist.
Yeah.
And especially with Raheem, right? He's one of those. I mean, first 5 months of the season, he was pretty good. He was definitely up there as one of their better players, and I understand that's not saying a lot, but he was definitely up there as one of their better players.
Yeah.
I think the reason why Pochettino keeps picking him and keeps putting him into the team is because they don't have a lot of senior players.
Yeah.
They don't have a lot of leaders in the squad. And it's
Very
been
true.
spoken about a lot, but Raheem Sterling is a leader. He's done it for England. He's done it for Man City. He's been around the block.
Yeah.
And he's still putting in performances. That assist for the second goal is good. But yes, these little moments, they're going to get clipped up. They're going to get put all over Twitter. And I think he's always been an easy target for people for some reason. And I just, what it comes back to is I just disagree with people booing their own players, especially when they get an assist, they're putting the work.
Yeah.
He wins the penalty.
Mm-hmm.
Like there was plenty to his game that was fine, but when the narrative shifts on you, it's hard to pull it back.
Oh,
And I think
100%.
I think that's a big thing with Sterling.
You think he would have enough credit in the bank after everything that he's done in the Premier League to warrant a bit of slack? And the thing is, look, I think you can look at it from two ways. If you're being generous, you say that, this outcry being aimed at a player is synonymous with a club and a fan base who are frustrated.
Yeah.
We've spoken before about the entitlement that Chelsea fans have because of their incredibly successful period under Abramovich, under Mourinho, whoever. The other side of it is that this is happening far too often at a club like Chelsea for it to just be frustration. It is something about the culture. Again, that video of the group of fans basically manhandling us at the game.
Yeah.
You don't want to see it. It is very toxic, and that is unfortunately something that has become more and more prevalent with Chelsea over the last few years.
I also think one of the problems with Chelsea generally is when you have this many players, this many good players, the idea in a fan's head is, well, he'll be better.
Yeah.
He'll be better. And you can do that with about 30 different players for Chelsea. And you've got all the academy kids who are really hyped. You have all the players they bring in. Like a great example is Carney Chukwuemeka is a brilliant player.
Yeah.
But we don't no one knows. He's not you can't say he's had the career of Raheem Sterling.
Exactly.
The same with Noni Madueke, the same with Mudryk, all these players. They're young. They're really young. They're at the start of their careers. Raheem Sterling is a leader on the pitch. They need leaders. And I think to even if it is a small section of fans, I think you've got to self-moderate as a football club and be like, that's just not.
Yeah.
Like if you was to ask like Noddy or like Carney Chukwuemeka, like who's their like go-to person, they'll all say Sterling.
Yeah, he'll be up there,
They
of
will
course
all say Sterling. Quick one. England squad came out. Do you think Sterling should have been in that squad?
Looking at the depth that squad now has, no.
Yeah.
No,
I
because-
wasn't surprised to not see him in it.
First, I think he stands a chance to be in it. Just the last couple games and like the build up to the squad coming out, he kind of just fell off a little bit. But yeah, I agree.
I think
it.
look, I'll say this: he's unlucky when people like Maguire are still getting in.
Yeah, that's why it's frustrating.
Yeah.
Maguire, Henderson. That's why it's frustrating.
Yeah. I think the other thing as well, like just going back to the Chelsea stuff. I think the other thing as well is like Poch is identifying these players as players that he thinks are going to be important for him and instilling in what he wants to do.
Yeah.
I think it's one thing hurling abuse at a player and then hurling abuse at a manager. If a manager's long-term plans don't work, we see it every season with managers that get sacked, doesn't work out, fans get angry, the rest of it happens. I think if a player like Sterling, who is a senior player, has been around the block, if he is being picked out by Poch as somebody who is really well placed to instill his culture or style of play in the team, and if you trust them to do that, then fans have to respect that, and that has to be reflected in the way that they.
I think it goes back to Chelsea fans haven't done a rebuild in however many years. It's not a 6-month thing. It's not a 9-month thing. It's usually it can be a year. It can be 2 years. How long did it take Arteta to get it? I know that's the one that everyone always looks at now, but it was 3 or 4 years before it really clicked for them. So. Patience is a thing that football fans don't have these days, and a great example of that is the chanting at 2-2 that you don't know what you're doing because he's taken off Mudryk. He brings on Carney Chukwuemeka, who scores the third, and he brings on Noni Madueke, who scores the fourth. Like you just have to be a bit more patient. Yeah. I know this season for Chelsea isn't great. It's not. The league season especially has been horrible. But they got to the final of a League Cup, lost it, but lost it at fine margins again. Yeah. 120th minute goal from Van Dijk, was it?
18th,
118th minute. He got it tattooed on his chest. And then they're in a semi-final of the FA Cup. It's not a great season, but if you said, is that progress?
Yeah, of course it is.
It's not good. It's not bad, sorry. And you could still get in. If you get to the final of that FA Cup, you could qualify for Europe because who you're up against might be Manchester City. Who are going to qualify for the all I'm saying is, if you look at it as a fan, not of the club, I can step back and go, it doesn't look great, but it doesn't look terrible. Yeah. If you said, are they moving forward? I'd say slowly, but yes.
And he'd never admit it, but it must have felt good for Poch yesterday.
Oh God,
bringing those boys on and having them make the difference. Obviously, he's not going to say it.
Can you imagine Mourinho? It would have been fully
he'd been like this. He'd have been like, trust me. Yeah.
So look, one of the things that got Leicester back into the game was a quite incredible own goal from Zazi. One of those that, as a fan, as a neutral, you just love to see it.
Beautiful.
You absolutely love to see it. And he just fucking wellies it.
Yeah. I feel like these things always happen on Sunday in the FA Cup. I just feel like it's so common.
I think it has to. I think there's a legal obligation to do something wild.
No one wants to see own goals where the ball's just crossed in and it's like gone for someone. Like, he full on, it doesn't look, he absolutely puts his foot through it.
I think he gets a tiny bit of contact as well, doesn't he? And I had a look back at it. It fully comes off his shin. Yeah. So he's just putting his leg through it to try and get it back to the keeper. But Sanchez's face. Sanchez has come out to try and make the angle for him so that they can play off around the other way.
Nope. Who do you blame in that instance, by the way?
Zazi, 100%.
But it's kind of just like a bit unlucky because own goals are all just a bit like unlucky as well.
It is unlucky, but if we had to blame,
you're taught from day one that in that situation you have to scan and you have to see what's behind you and you have to see where the keeper is. Even if it's not difficult.
Even if Sanchez is back in the position, like you've well overhit it. Yeah, like you've massively.
It shows a massive lack of awareness, and I would argue that at that level, in an FA Cup quarter-final, you should be showing
his face when he hit it was just.
He knew it as soon as it left.
Fucking hell, I've caught that.
As soon as it left his shin, he knew.
It's up. It's like because you see it from centre backs every now and then because they're so used to playing the big diags. They sometimes just catch the ball a little bit too well, and in it goes. Anyway, so brilliant own goal. And we went down to Chelsea and did manage to speak to them about what their favourite own goal ever was.
My favourite ever own goal? I think after today, what Disasi done, I think, that might be my favourite. It was a good goal, I can't lie.
There's a few. I can go Trippier here a few years ago against Chelsea. Maybe Company, the one against, I think it's West Brom a few years ago. It has to be Trippier, really. Like, circumstances.
Yeah, Trippier for me. Yeah, such a good goal.
Kieran Trippier against Chelsea in the I think it was the Carabao Cup a few years back. I was behind the goal when it happened. What a beautiful moment. Unbelievable.
Kieran Trippier.
The Chelsea fans really aren't forgetting that one. I remember that goal because it was just, again, he just didn't look where the keeper was and just passed it into the... And that was a horrible, horrible moment for Spurs in that game. But yeah, I wanted to ask you guys if you had a favourite own goal. They are a beautiful thing as well. There's a real...
Yeah, Harry Kane though. Harry Kane, I can't remember whose was. Corner comes in and he absolutely tries to slice it, but it hits like the side of his foot and it was like one of the best finishes.
Yeah.
Because he tries to volley it away, but it hits like the outside and it just like curves in. Like amazing finish. I think there's a lot of Spurs ones. We talked about before.
There's a lot of
Spursy goals in there.
There's a lot of Spurs ones. Probably too many Spurs ones, I'd say.
There's been a couple of bad ones for Liverpool as well. And unfortunately, this is the thing. I don't want to do it, but the first two that come to mind, one of them is Carragher. The FA Cup final 2006, where the ball comes in. it's crossed in behind Jamie Carragher, who's running the other way, and he somehow manages to pull his leg back behind himself and flick it forward. So it's kind of a weird back leg. It's a Rabona, basically. It's absolutely beautiful. And then the other one I think of is do you remember Jimmy Traore's against Burnley? Yeah. Which again was just a really deft little flick.
So when I went out to Ghana, I asked him about that.
No way.
Yeah. I asked because I was like, other than the Champions League final, that was probably like his biggest moment in the Liverpool shirt.
Yeah.
And he was just like, like it happened.
It's a great finish.
It just happened. Yeah, that was so interesting. Carry on, bro.
No, go.
The one I wanted to mention is Gareth Bale.
Yeah,
that was like. Do you remember that one where he just like banged? I'm not gonna lie, if that's happened to me, I'm claiming insurance on my head because that was like point blank, just straight hit him in the face. It's like that one you generally can't blame him. Like you can't blame him.
It's not his fault.
Yeah.
Like,
I think another lovely one for me. We'll talk about him because he was commentating on the Liverpool United game yesterday. Was Lee Dixon in '91 against, I think it was Coventry, where I mean it's not dissimilar to Disasi's. And the ball's come to him. He just hasn't. He just straight up hasn't looked,
has he? Yeah,
and he's just hooked it back across himself. Yeah. And I can't remember who's in goal. I mean, 91. I guess it might have been Seaman. I suppose he's 10 yards away. He's 10 yards out of the way. It's absolutely brilliant.
My favourite genre of own goals where the defender really wants to like put it out. Like Rosie and just puts it high into the net. There's Sergio Reguilon had one a couple of years ago that was he was trying to come around the ball. I think it was against United. It was lockdown football, and he just wildly swipes it, puts it. He's facing that way, and the ball ends up in the net over there. Just slice it. But Santiago Vergini, Southampton versus Sunderland, and he comes round the ball, and it looks like a perfect striker's finish, but then you realise
it's his whole
plays
team.
for fucking Sunderland, and the ball shouldn't be in the net. All right, so look, well done, Disasi. That was a really
goal of the round for me. I think.
Really lovely own goal. So something that might happen with Leicester and Chelsea at the end of the season are FFP charges. Both clubs are suffering from rules. Leicester's is to do with the Football League and whether they should be judged against the Premier League's rules or the Football League's rules, and Chelsea's is judged against them being grossly out of space.
I don't think they're suffering from the rules. I think they're suffering from ignoring the rules.
But
I think that's their problem.
There's been discussions about whether we move to UEFA's rules, which are closer to, I think they bring in more in terms of wages and pay structures and how much money's coming into the club. It's a different rule set. And there is discussions with the Premier League at the moment about switching to it. But we asked Chelsea and Leicester fans how they felt about potentially breaching FFP and what that would do for their seasons.
I mean, if you talk about FFP, like, you have to look at Man City. Like, obviously, Chelsea, we've got loads of problems with FFP. But Man City, like, 125 charges, something like that. Like, it's a huge issue. I don't know. I think as of now, it's not working. If they do get charged eventually, then we'll see.
Well, it's all a load of bollocks, really. We've not got 115 charges, so I think depends if give it a few seasons. We might be in the mud a bit, but fingers crossed we're not.
It restricts clubs that don't bring in the money, and that means they can't spend the money. You look at Newcastle being held back. Aston Villa will probably have some issues with FFP at some point. There's lots of clubs that are actually having good ownerships coming in, unlike Chelsea, Nottingham Forest as well, but they can't spend, because if they spend, they will be punished.
And how would you change it as a fan? How would you change it to make it fair across the board?
Stop buying young players, which we don't need to buy. 60 mil on a left back, which is not too good. Maatsen, good in pre-season, playing him left wing. How's he playing him left wing for? He's a left back.
Do you think Chelsea have ever breached financial fair play?
Under Roven, probably, at some point.
Most likely.
I think now with Bowley, they probably know much more about the rules and probably be much more careful.
Yeah.
It's difficult because then you've got clubs who had a head start 20 years ago and they bring in more money, and now the other clubs can't do the same thing. So we have an advantage at Chelsea, and Man City have an advantage. Man United have an advantage, and we just have to sit back as, you know, the rest of the league have to sit back and just deal with it.
Accountability, guys. Come on.
I love
accountability.
My favourite thing is the whataboutery of football fans. So, like, what about? No, but what about? Don't talk about my club. What about that other club that did something similar?
I mean, unfortunately, the thing is, though, it's a fair point. Because City either isn't being dealt with or is taking so
we
long
know
to be
it.
dealt
We know
with.
it is being dealt with.
That's the thing.
Yeah, but
That's always going to be there.
It's always going to be there, but it's like when it's Chelsea and is what they're doing, it's kind of like that what if goes out the window, because Chelsea, we could all see it. They might not be found guilty of it now, but we could all see it. I feel like it's still fair because Man City are just... I don't think Man City's situation, I don't think it will ever get dealt with, by the way.
Yeah, it could be a long, long time.
Yeah,
And they said it will be lawyered in and out of court.
Exactly.
Didn't they say that there was going to be a decision this year, though?
I'd be absolutely amazed if that happened.
They're doing like a Harvey Specter and just slapping bare paperwork on the table.
I think they'll just clog it up. I mean, the question that we've asked is how it's going to affect Chelsea and Leicester. It is very easy for Chelsea fans, for Liverpool fans, for Everton fans, for Forest fans, whoever, to turn and say, well, look who's at the top of the tree. Look who's getting away with it. Look at Manchester City. Why should we have to deal with it? But
touching on Leicester's situation,
yeah,
I think it's very harsh on Leicester because as a team that's come from the Premiership for the past 10, 15, whatever years, they've been fighting in the Premiership, trying to stay up. Obviously, they won it, which actually brings a lot more money into it. For them to go down to the Football League, it's kind of unfair to now be like, oh, you have to work under the Football League FFP rules. I think that's very unfair on Leicester. Chelsea, they could get stuck with as many charges and found guilty. Leicester, I think it is quite harsh.
Yeah, but then the conversation is, look, Leicester look likely to get promoted, but if they don't get promoted, then do you continue to say that they're judged against the Premier League's rules?
The advantage that can give them is then huge.
And this is a major issue anyway, isn't it? Because any team, look at Burnley and Sheffield United, but Sheffield United sold their best 2 players before the season started.
Yeah.
It looked like they were like, okay, look, we've done this. This is going to be good financially for the club for a year. We're going to get relegated and we have to prepare for that. Before the season started. I just don't know if I understand what the guy at the end sort of saying, where there are clubs that are better set up for the rules now that mean the other clubs just are constantly scrambling to stay within these remits, because that is £105 million losses over 3 years, right? And if you break that, then you fall into full foul of the rules. But if you're a new club coming up to the Premier League, you need to bulk your squad up. You need to get players in. You need to, and then what if you don't survive and then you end up, back in the EFL where you don't get as much money? It feels like the rules aren't working potentially.
The thing is, I would wonder whether, regardless of what the rules are, surely there are always going to be certain clubs and certain setups that it works better for than
100%. 100%.
I don't see how you get around
Newcastle fans have sort of brought this up recently, haven't they? Where they're saying like, well, how are we falling foul of FFP already? And they're watching Manchester City and Chelsea and whatnot go on these spending sprees again and again, because those clubs are set up to also create deals that potentially don't exist with companies that don't exist. Allegedly.
So how would you guys combat FFP? Because
I'm not the person. If I thought I was that smart, I'd be.
No, because I always think about it. I was like,
it wouldn't be on this fucking show. I'll tell you that.
No, look, it's a really difficult question.
Yeah.
The Premier Leagues are looking at I think moving closer. I think it's UEFA's rules they're thinking of moving closer to, but it's difficult. It's difficult.
It's so difficult.
But especially when you have whole countries backing
dedicated to kind of
certain clubs.
That's the thing. Again, you ask how you would fix it and what you would do about it. I don't think you can, when different clubs have different facilities and different amounts of money pumped into them. Like, I think that is probably the starting point that makes it an uneven playing field from the start. Clubs are going to feel, rich clubs are going to feel less hard done by, probably. It's easier for them because if they're a rich club, they've probably got bigger academies, probably better facilities that mean players get better, maybe earlier in their careers, they're worth money more. They're worth more money earlier. I don't think it's as simple as, well, what would you change so that everybody can sort of play by the same rules? Because I just don't think it would ever be a level playing field.
So just to go back, UEFA's rules are focusing on squad cost, incorporating wages, transfer fees and agent fees, which Chelsea would currently be in line with UEFA's rules. Apparently, yeah. Well, look, this has been recommended. The wages to turnover ratio of 70%, but it's never been enforced. So we'll see. Like that makes a lot more sense to me. But again, the complexities of this differ depending where you are in the league or in the championship, or if you're into the European competitions. It's all going to be. It's very difficult to do a one size fits all. But I guess they have to, because you can't just make it up as you go along.
It's such a weird one. Like FFP is such a it's that Neymar transfer that ruined flipping transfer.
Ballooned it.
Yeah, man.
I mean, there was a lot. Yeah, there was a few transfers around then. It was like, what are we doing?
Yeah,
this is it. We're not going to be able to come back from this.
Yeah, and we generally can't.
And I don't think we have come back.
Maguire getting sold for, what was it? 80 mil? 70 mil? Yeah,
I mean, you looked at Ronaldo going to Real Madrid for 80 or whatever it was, and everyone was like, oh, okay, that's fair enough. He's going to be the best player in the world for a long time, or there or thereabouts. And then it was Pogba going back to United for that obscene money.
Yeah.
You had Neymar, you had Coutinho, you had all sorts.
No, you get that flipping... What's this, the Barca youth? The Barca kid... Yassine. Yamal flipping quoted for £200 million at 16.
I mean, he does look.
He does look great.
Don't get me wrong.
He does look.
Don't get me wrong, but the guy's just sitting his GCSEs, guys.
And all these obscene release clauses in La Liga.
To be honest, Barcelona have always done that.
But also,
Barcelona have always and it's not helped by the papers sort of saying he's worth 500 million. It's like,
But also, there's been little rumors that he might not be his age. Just putting it out there.
You love this.
No, when it was
you're such a fucking gossip, Ibi, man.
Loves
it.
Can we just have 2 minutes on where Ibi thinks Kate Middleton is as well while we're here?
Oh, look at me starting now.
Ibi thinks everyone's 42 and makes a fake passport.
I've done some digging, and in 2010,
Agatha Christie, I
love it.
In 2010, he was wearing one of the kits that was basically when he was under 10, he was wearing the under 13 kits, meaning he's a couple years older.
No, but you always, if you're a good player, you get moved up the years.
No,
you
as
know
in the
this.
year group.
Oh, right. Out or off the pitch. He was wearing
yes.
He was wearing the training
There's
kit.
something
Big
dodgy
old
going
conspiracy, isn't it?
Why?
This is why Ibi keeps pushing for us to get Matt Letizia on as a guest,
exactly.
isn't it? You love it.
What's really happening?
Love it.
What's really happening? Let's
Makes you think, guys. Makes you think.
That's just my conspiracies.
So look, moving on from conspiracies to Manchester United versus Liverpool. A classic, one of the games that will go down.
Ridiculous,
It'll go down as an FA Cup. One of the best games in FA Cup history. I think that in terms of the quality of the game, maybe wasn't the best, but it was so open for 120 minutes. It just felt like anyone could score at any moment, and if anyone wanted to take their chances, which Liverpool will really regret most, right?
It's crazy.
It could have been 6-6, 7-7, 8-8. Like really, the chances were. Well, look, Rashford missed a couple of sitters. At the other end, there was a 5-on-2 for Liverpool at one point. Didn't take advantage of it, and then look, let's fast forward right to the 120th minute.
120th minute,
I want to talk to you guys about that, because I think we could talk about the game a lot, but I want to talk about that moment in particular when Elliot sees the ball dropping.
Yeah,
because I was like, my guy, you just have to. You're the last man. You have to make sure.
You have to just hook
you have
it
to make sure that that ball just goes up, so that everyone can move back.
Yeah.
What did you guys think? Because you're both Liverpool fans.
I kind of actually thought, why are we not set up a bit more defensively?
It was pretty naive, I thought, actually, to have been in a position where we took the league twice, where we should have killed the game off twice.
Yeah.
Letting them back in it once and forcing extra time is one thing. That half an hour period in the second half where it felt like it was bizarre, felt like a training exercise, all Liverpool, but absolutely just no urgency to kill the game off. Letting United get back in it from there is one thing. Taking that into extra time and letting them equalise again is another thing. And Harvey Elliott, I actually thought he really deserved his goal. And that was a huge deflection.
When he came on.
Yeah, he did.
He's worked very hard, worked hard yesterday. Last few weeks, he's been absolutely brilliant for us when he's come on. I actually think that final attack of the game is naivety more than anything else. And again, I don't want to be on 1 week saying how good the kids are and how we can trust them to do everything and then say that we can't trust them next week. So that's not the case. I think in those situations, deep into extra time, you cannot have one player. Bearing in mind that we probably would have fancied ourselves in penalties against them as well. I don't think you can set up from there with one player sat at the back. You've got to anticipate that there's going to be a counter-attack there and that they're going to have an opportunity off the back of it.
I can't lie, United throughout... I started watching it around 50, 60 minutes because we was at the Chelsea game. United looked so bad when we started watching it. Like honestly, I generally thought I felt like turning it off because it was quite boring to watch because it was just pop, 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 pop. We're on goal, we pass it back, and I was just like, this is really like weird from United. And it's just like United didn't want to be there, like type of vibe. So it kind of hurts as a Liverpool fan even more that we now have given that away to end up losing. Giving a goal away is bad.
Yeah.
But the issue was we're forgetting that Rashford missed the chance at the end.
Yeah, big
Rashford
chance.
got one across goal where no one was at the end of it. So it wasn't like it was a smash and grab.
No, they had. This is the worst thing about it. You could see it coming.
You could see it coming.
So many of us at 75 minutes in that period where it was all us and we just weren't doing anything.
The commentators even said it.
You can see it.
The commentators even
Of
said
course,
it.
look, you get a 5-on-2 and you're 2-1 up.
You have to kill it.
Or 3-2 up.
Yeah. 2-1, I think it was. You've
2-1.
got to kill it.
Oh, I'm getting Mars. Yeah, and I thought that's the wrong pass. As soon as you made that ball, I was like, that's the wrong pass. You've gone the wrong way. So yeah, look, it goes into extra time and Man United do the business.
Yeah.
Klopp's post-match interview. Then
Yeah.
this is a man who you can tell is really coming to the end. Like he's always had a couple of these in the bag, right? He's always had a couple of. If he's lost, he's not the best loser, and like there's lots of managers that aren't.
He knows
right?
he's not the best.
There's
loser
lots
as
of
well.
managers that aren't. I think he's really, he's almost on gardening leave now.
Yeah.
Where it's like he knows that he's lost. He's been fired, but he's been made to work his 3 months, and he's kind of like, I'm just going to say whatever I want now.
Anything goes.
You're fat. Your questions are rubbish.
I'm here for it.
I don't know. It was a very fair question for my money, is all I'm saying. Like, one thing, you guys both kind of said it there. Liverpool were in control of the game, and then extra time, that kind of slipped away from them. And then the guy, I think it's from Norwegian TV, potentially,
Scandinavia.
asks about intensity and asks about well, look, your team is famous for intensity, but how come he didn't manage to? And the answer is quite simple. It's that Man United had depth, they had longer to prepare, and they really could bring on players in positions that could hurt Liverpool. But he says that's a bit of a dumb question. If you see us often, you ask the other times why we have so much energy, which is fair. I don't know how many games we've had recently and how many Manchester United have had. That sport. I'm really disappointed about that question, but you thought obviously it's good. And then the guy goes, so too many games? And he goes, oh, you don't think that? Come on. You are obviously not in great shape, and I have no nerves for you. So yeah, he's hurt. And he's on his. He wants to go out with a blaze of glory right at Liverpool, and this is a massive opportunity against a close rival. He also would have heard everything that was going on in the stands, and it's definitely quite heated. We can come on to that, and I think he just he bit.
Yeah, he did.
He chomped. He didn't bite.
did.
He chomped.
I mean, look, I think it is a silly question because I think it's a very, very, as you said, it's a very easy, obvious answer.
But that's his job, Joel.
The issue.
What's he supposed?
Give me a moment.
What's he supposed to say?
It is a silly question. The answer is that you just say the obvious answer.
Yeah, exactly, and then you move on.
You don't need to bite.
Klopp was basically doing what the Chelsea fans are doing to me.
Yeah,
yesterday,
100%. Look, he famously is a bad loser, and I think he's come out before and acknowledged that. I don't think it's obviously you want to beat Man United in these games. You want to beat Man United anyway. I actually think in the way that most Liverpool, the way that I think about it this morning, obviously it wasn't fun watching it happen yesterday, but the way I think most Liverpool fans will think about it now is we have 15 games left with Jurgen Klopp. That is if we go all the way to the Europa League final, right? So maximum of 15 games. If there was a game to lose in the rest of this season, that is it yesterday. That is the least important game. You want to win the Europa League over the FA Cup.
Yeah.
You want to win the Premier League over anything else. We go back to Old Trafford in a few weeks' time. I will trade an FA Cup, and also it's the magic of the cup, right? I will trade an absolutely ridiculous FA Cup game where we go out for 3 points there in a couple of weeks' time if it means that we're still in it last couple of weeks of the season. Of course you want to beat United. I understand he's frustrated about that. And as you said, the fucking disgusting stuff in the stands has played a part of that as well. It's a silly question. It's a silly response from Klopp as well. And I think everyone should just go and have a lie down. You know?
So look, let's chat about that then, because it's something that that was really noticeable on TV. You could hear it from quite early on in the game that the chanting, the tragedy chanting, was loud and very apparent. And go on.
I was just saying, I don't think I've ever heard it so consistently loud in a broadcasted game, and also getting like perpetually louder.
Yeah.
Like you heard it from very, very, very early doors, and you can identify it straight away. And as the game got on, what was absolutely mad to me was that the group of fans that were singing it got bigger and bigger, and like it was audible. You could notice that more and more people were doing it.
Yeah.
And it's 2024. I cannot believe we're still having to have this conversation. And I'm not being funny. This is playing away at a club who have had their own fair share of awful tragedies happen at that club. I'm not being funny. Read the fucking room and have enough self-respect for your... Like, I can understand it. It's this fucking awful tribalism in football that is just the most base level, zero brain cell way of acting. It does my fucking head in. I cannot believe that we're still dealing with it, and that the fact that was it acknowledged once by the commentary team yesterday?
I think they're asked not to acknowledge it.
Fucking shame on them as well. It's a disgrace.
Are you then shining a light on something?
It's not the point. It's not getting dealt with.
Yeah.
The thing that people are saying is, well, how do we deal with it? Because it's tribalism and fans are always going to go at other fans and this, that, and the other. Right. So you have to do something that you're not already doing. It isn't working, right? People aren't getting banned. Every now and then you might hear of 1 or 2 people that get a stadium ban. That is 2,000, 3,000 people at times yesterday. You've got cameras all over the stadium. Broadcasters should be talking about it. Broadcasters, there's absolutely no reason why at half-time, when they're doing the analysis, it can't be brought up.
Yeah.
You've got former Liverpool players, former Manchester United players in that studio. Fucking talk about it.
Yeah, look, I agree. I think, generally speaking, it's not dealt with particularly well, and the punishments still aren't in place, because really it's always spoken about. Oh, well, it'll be robust, and we're gonna go after the fans but really, we're talking probably a few thousand yesterday. Are we going to see stadium bans for a few thousand people?
But you should. But no,
no, mate. Look, don't get me wrong. I'm saying we should, but I'm saying, are we going to see that?
No, of course we're not. And this is the problem. They say they're going to deal with it until they realise that actually they either can't be asked to deal with it or it's going to hurt them financially, and then they don't fucking deal with it.
Like, I think with the whole stadium ban stuff, I think the initiative is correct. But what I've realised, even after yesterday, actually, one of the lads from Chelsea tried to come up for an interview, and he was basically say how he has a stadium ban from Chelsea, but he'll come to all the Chelsea games anyway. He'll stand outside, he'll try and get in. So now, can you imagine that with like a few thousand? I think it'll actually cause more chaos. So it's just like, how do you deal with it? It's such a weird situation.
But this is where like football fandom and then where football is now has moved on massively, right? Where, you know, lads in the stadium will be like, it's just banter. We do it when they go to their place, they do it when it comes to our place. But no, it has real world effects on people who are involved or have been involved or have worked tirelessly to try and get the correct outcomes to these tragedies. And I know the FA was doing a lot of work around it at the beginning of the season. There was a lot of I think it was PR to try and just raise awareness of these people that you're affecting, basically. But I just don't think.
But that's the problem. That's the extent that it goes to. It becomes a PR exercise. It really does.
But
it's all very well. It's all very well every season saying we're trying new things to stamp it out and this, that, and the other. But if there is no actual evidence of that in the way that people are behaving, then what you're doing isn't working. You wouldn't do it in the street and be disrespectful like that to people because you get locked up for it.
Yeah, it's true.
I just don't get it. I don't like.
That's the thing. It's so fucking stupid.
And like the fact that we're still here. I think was it Klopp and Ten Hag came together last year and literally did a thing being like,
that's a right program notes about it.
Stop tragedy chanting. Like we're well beyond that, and also we're better than that. But clearly, lots of fans like to do it. They know that it gets a raise out of people, and that's really when people are on those terraces. That's all they're looking for from the other fans, right? They're looking to rile them up.
Go after your opposition players.
The craziest thing for me, the craziest thing for me, they've just won the game, last minute win, a huge winner.
Sing about your own team.
And there's people, and they choose to turn and do that. I just think,
you know, it's like with football fans, I'm all for like your club is shit. You're like all that kind of.
That's a part of football.
Yeah,
that's fine.
But then there's always that one step where people take it too far.
Yeah,
and that's where it's just like it's too much.
If you want to hurl abuse at anybody in the stadium, do it at the opposition manager, at the opposition players, at the team that you've just beaten on the pitch.
Yeah,
that is expected, right? It's expected in a game like that. It's expected in a rivalry like that. Doing it about people that died at 25 years old. At a football game that you may as well fucking be at. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's crazy.
It's crazy. And like, look, the only thing, we're at the point now, right, where everyone heard it on TV yesterday. And, you know, it being an FA Cup match that was free to air actually might put more pressure on it because a lot of people heard about it. It was spoken about a lot. And,
yeah, that's true.
And now the pressure's on because people are going to be like, well, what are we going to do about this? What are we going to do about it? And I think the answer is, stadium bans and lifetime bans and, you know, even criminal charges, which is what they brought in. Do you remember the geezer who wore the shirt, he wore like a Hillsborough shirt last year? He got a criminal charge for that. And like, too right. And hopefully we'll see more of it.
If you can hunt people down that are doing it on social media, you can do it with CCTV cameras at a football game. And the other thing as well, like, I'm not being funny, Hillsborough was an FA Cup game. They have got an opportunity as the FA Cup to come out and say now, as you said, that was public broadcast. Yeah. Everybody heard it. This competition especially is not going to stand for it.
Yeah.
They won't do it.
We'll see, won't we? We'll see. But yeah, not what we want to see. After and it was a brilliant game. That's the other thing. It's just just enjoy the fucking game. It's so good. Anyway, moving on. Last little bit today. Coventry versus Wolves. Yeah, let's take it back to the football. Another just wild game.
Beauty of the FA Cup.
With another quality last minute goal. Like, it was a really, really tidy finish. And I want to speak about the other end of sort of football fandom and football silliness was Mark Robbins going over and celebrating in the face of a ball boy who was a child because the ball boy had previously dropped the ball and walked away from it in like the 80-something minute. He then has to come out and
I'm here for it.
He comes out and apologizes. Gary O'Neill says it is disgusting and that he's spoken to him. Where do we sit on this one?
I mean, look, it's not unprompted. He at least thinks that there is a reason, like, to go and do it. I don't know.
Gary O'Neill dragged it. It's not disgusting. It's just a bit of like, you have to remember Coventry are Coventry. They have no right being in the FA Cup semi-final. Let the manager celebrate. Gary O'Neill, you're dragging a little bit. You're moving like Klopp, being a bit salty. The ball boy.
The ball boy is a child.
Yeah, the ball boy is a child. Well, no, it's experience for life. If he really wants to become a professional footballer, he's going to have to deal with them bollockings.
Do you know what? He'd do what that lad has done, the Hazard guy.
The vodka kiss.
He'll now turn that into like a range of fucking gloves or something.
The camera angle was bad. You couldn't really see it. You couldn't really see the kid who he does it to. So at first I was like, who's he celebrating in front of?
And then see like a ball boy panning over.
But yeah, I mean, look, that was it was another brilliant FA Cup game. That kind of weirdness and craziness that the FA Cup kind of throws up, like celebrating in a child's face.
FA Cup, you will only get this stuff.
Yeah, and look, there's been a lot of chat in the last few years about the FA Cup. We don't want to do return fixtures for the big teams. We don't want to No. Respect the FA Cup. It's brilliant. Respect the League Cup. It's brilliant. The Cups are fucking great. I love them.
Like, who was the non-league teams? Like, there's always like a couple non-league teams.
There's always a couple of non-league teams.
Maidstone. Maidstone done very well this year. They actually... See, this is the beauty of the FA Cup. Coventry beat Maidstone in the last round. So it could have been Maidstone versus...
What, Wolves?
No. Did Wolves beat Maidstone?
No, wait. You're saying...
Wait, did Coventry or Wolves beat Maidstone?
I have no idea.
I can't remember.
Coventry beat Maidstone.
Yeah.
So it could have been Maidstone versus Chelsea. Maidstone won all the games. Which is just
if my nan had wheels, she'd be a bike.
Oh no, it's still the same
If
shit.
my grandma had a wheel.
If Liverpool had shut the game down, we'd be in the FA Cup semi-final. I don't know what you want, mate.
It's true.
Sorry.
It's true, to be fair.
Sorry,
We're guessing. Right, okay, so look, to end the show, we have a Rate My Take.
Love it.
So if you could get your, I believe you should have your...
You should have your cards.
So, I'll play the VT, and then you guys can give me your yellow and red cards.
Chukwuemeka is the second best player at Chelsea.
After?
Cole Palmer.
100% agree.
100%.
And Noni needs
You know,
to
man.
start on the wing, 100%. Sterling needs to get dropped. That's all I'm saying.
Sterling's a bum. I agree with that. Sterling is a bum. I don't think Noni's the man yet. Look, he scored a good goal. It is what it is. But Chukwuemeka, after Cole Palmer, is Chelsea's best player. You haven't seen it because you haven't seen it. He's been injured. But when he's played, Chelsea have played. And that's the truth of it. If Chukwuemeka doesn't play, Chelsea don't play. Forget Conor Gallagher as a 10. I want Chucky every single day of the week. Palmer on the right, Chucky in the middle, and then maybe Mudryk on the left. But Chukwuemeka, Chelsea's second best player after Cole Palmer.
Firstly, there's only one Chucky. It's Chucky Lozano.
Sure.
And then secondly, what do we think? Joe, I'll start with you. Carney Chukwuemeka is Chelsea's second best player at the club.
I'm going to go yellow.
Okay.
I don't have a huge opinion either way. I think it's funny the fact that he's like, well, you haven't seen it because you haven't seen it.
Yeah.
Right? That's a pretty significant starting point. Look, he's having a very good season when he is playing. He is clearly an obscenely talented player.
Yep.
Won the Euro under-19s with England. He is having his breakthrough, and I think with Chelsea going through the transition that they are, it's very good for them and for the game to see players like him grabbing games by the scruff of the neck. Is he the best player at Chelsea on paper? No. Is he the second best? Probably not. I think, again, they were very quick to... very easy yesterday to have a go at Raheem Sterling as well.
Yeah.
I don't hate that take, but only because he is clearly obscenely talented. He's got a long, long way to go. But, in a Chelsea team that haven't had a huge amount to celebrate this season, why not?
Sure.
Why not?
It kind of falls into my thing of like players not being in the team, their stock goes up and up and up and up and up. Like,
Especially when the
players
team's
that are on the
playing
pitch
bad as well.
badly.
Yeah. Like Carney Chukwuemeka is a very talented footballer. I think, he wouldn't have moved from Aston Villa to Chelsea if he wasn't a very talented footballer, because Chelsea have tons of players who can fill that role. Is he the second best player at Chelsea? I'm going to give it a yellow.
Yeah.
I'm going to say no, because I don't think he's the second best player at Chelsea. But he's hit some decent form for them, where players like Caicedo, Enzo Fernandez, I'll say this. Actually, no. Do you know what?
Yeah.
I'm reading it.
there you go.
Do you know what? I'm reading it
VAR,
because
change
Caicedo,
it.
Enzo Fernandez last year were unbelievable. They're unbelievable footballers. Gusto at right back is unbelievable. Is a very, very good footballer. Anyway, I don't think you can say Carney comes in as their second best player.
That's what I'm saying.
Although just relative.
Yeah.
Him not being in the team seems to have pushed him onto these.
And I think the point you make about form is really important.
Yes.
You can be a very promising, very talented footballer, and everyone around you can be in bad form, and then you can come into the side, perform well for a few weeks, and it's football. Fans are reactionary.
Yeah.
Chelsea fans more than any are reactionary.
Exactly.
Go on, Nibs.
I think personally it's just a red card.
Yeah.
Just because he's played 6 games this year.
Okay.
Like he's played 6 games. It's not like he scored like 4 goals and like 2 assists. He's got 1 goal, 1 assist, which is not the worst.
No,
don't
it's
get me
very
wrong.
good for his position.
Yeah. But then also you got Caicedo, you got Enzo, you even got Petrovic, who's doing really well. Gusto, Silva. So it's just kind of hard to just justify him being second. And then also the guy kind of said it himself. You haven't seen it because you haven't seen it.
Yeah.
So
we'll see, right? We'll see. Carney Chukwuemeka has always been an incredibly highly rated footballer. Like he is thought to be, a big player for the future. But I think we're maybe getting a little bit ahead of ourselves.
I don't think it's a bad take in next season, two seasons after. But right now, I think is.
I must re-emphasise the fact that I went with yellow because I don't have that much of an opinion. Now that everyone's changing theirs, I'm going to stick with my gun.
All right. Well, look. thank you for watching Football Trending. Make sure to like and subscribe and comment, and we'll see you in the next one. Thanks.